Thanks for your leadership and everything that you have done and everyone on this call has done for the causes and the candidates that we believe in. This is an extraordinary moment in the life of our country, and while it can feel like a dark moment, I think often it's the story of the LGBTQ community and our incomplete but ongoing struggle for equality that is an example of the hope and the potential of what leadership can do. Tonight's theme at the convention is leadership matters, and part of that is the leadership of Joe Biden. It's easy to forget because of the pace of change that he was stepping out ahead even of our Democratic Party when he said that marriage equality ought to be the law of the land. And it's one of the reasons why when we are gathering to support Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, as well as our fantastic Democrats up and down the ticket, this is not just about what we're up against. We know what is at stake in defeating Donald Trump and Mike Pence, who I could tell you all kinds of things about, having gotten to know him all too well during his time as governor of Indiana. But it's not just that. Yes, what we are up against ought to be motivation enough. This is also about what we're for. It's about a chance to be for a leader who is driven by empathy, somebody who understands the need to make this a country where everybody can belong. And that path is one that has certainly shaped and changed my life. If you trace a line all the way back to Stonewall, when people, led largely by Black trans women, stood up in the face of police violence, all the way through to when a candidacy like mine, Chasten and me together, came campaigning across the country, something that would have been considered laughable, not just 51 years ago, but probably 5 years ago, and wound up having the chance to be the first openly gay candidate to win a presidential nominated contest. Shows you the progress that's possible. But there are two things that we know, right? One, that progress is incomplete. We have an epidemic of violence against Black trans women. We still need a federal Equality Act. We see administrative actions on everything from health to international adoptions that are aimed squarely at tearing down the potential for equality for the LGBTQ plus community. So we know the progress is incomplete. The other thing we know is that progress is not permanent. And that's something we're being reminded of in our need to be allies to everyone raising voices to insist that this country live up to the truth that Black lives matter. All of the areas in American life where it has often been 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. These are the kinds of things that are at stake right now. It would actually take another 22,000 elected officials for there to be true proportional representation of our LGBTQ community in offices across the country. But we have amazing elected officials right now, amazing candidates. Honored to come on right after Representative Kenyatta, just one of so many of a new generation too. I can't believe I'm old enough to say this, but a newer generation coming up who represent such amazing potential and such amazing leadership today. And we're not going to get caught treating the presidency like the only office that matters. We know that not only do we have to elect Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, president and vice president, in order to get this country on the right track and secure equality and rights for our community, but also that so many of these decisions, so much of this power lies at the state level, at the school board level, even in mayor's offices that we know as Democrats we need to organize for in the reddest of red and the bluest of blue states. And the LGBTQ Caucus of the DNC has been on the forefront of that. And I'm standing on the shoulders of the work that so many of you have done. Chasten and I got to know so many of you on the campaign trail, getting to travel the country and see what's at stake from people our parents' age to people not yet old enough to vote. I know Chasten is a big part of your experience of the campaign too, and I know everybody's really excited to see you.
I'm so glad you brought up school boards because one of the things I enjoyed the most out on the campaign trail was talking with young people. And in many places, young people feel like politicians and the government just does not care about them. I remember when I was growing up in northern Michigan, a very conservative place and time where it was simply a fact that you just could not be out. That's why I ended up running away from home. And then, fast forward, falling in love with you and getting to do this remarkable thing of traveling the country representing their husband who's running for president, I'd sit with these young people and they would just talk about how they felt disenfranchised and left out, that nobody believed in them, that it was still unsafe to be their truest, most authentic selves. And I think, of course they deserved a president and a first gentleman, a secretary of education who actually believed in protecting trans and queer kids. But what many kids also need is an empathetic school board member. So if you're thinking about trying to make change in your own community, it doesn't just have to come from Washington. They also need to look up to people in their own community and know that people there in their hometown care about them and see them and see their true dignity and worth. So I, as a teacher, am always thinking about what young people are hearing, what young people are seeing in this country. I always think about this gentleman who I heard about in Tulsa, Oklahoma, when I was sitting at a round table in Tulsa talking about the state of the LGBTQ community there. And I learned a story of a young man who was kicked out of his home in the middle of the night and literally walked barefoot into downtown Tulsa, slept outside of the Quality Center because that's the only place where he felt safe enough to go. And I think a lot of times the conversation about progress in this community can be sort of torn apart. We think that we've really pushed the needle and we've really gone far in many ways, but for him in Tulsa, what he needed was one safe place to sleep. That's why we're still talking about fighting to end this homeless epidemic. 40% of youth sleeping out on the street tonight identify as LGBTQ+, and that is why we're all in this fight together. That yes, we need to restore the soul of this nation to the White House, that every queer kid in this country should look up to the White House and see a president, a first gentleman, a vice president, and a second gentleman First Lady, sorry, Jill, who believe in LGBTQ plus Americans who believe in all of us. So it was an honor and a pleasure to do it with Pete out on the trail, spreading that hope and that dignity for every single person who is just waiting for this country to truly be a beacon of hope and progress and inclusion. So to everyone on this call who boosted us, who buoyed us, who encouraged us, who pushed us, sometimes in good ways and sometimes in hard ways, we knew we had to get this moment right. And I really hope that we made you all proud, and it was a pleasure representing you on the trail.
And just the beginning. I mean, I know, again, we think of this moment so much in terms of just the dire condition our country's in, but the other way I like to think about it is what could be possible in the next 10 years. I mean, if 10 years ago, marriage equality was not the law of the land for most people, it was impossible for people to serve openly. That was just 10 years ago. Think of what 2030 might be like if we get this right. And that's what I'm excited for. We know what needs to happen as far as the vice president's agenda for LGBTQ plus equality, protecting our community from discrimination, supporting LGBTQ plus youth, protecting individuals from violence and dealing with that epidemic of violence, especially against trans women of color, making sure healthcare is available to all, ensuring that there's fair treatment in the criminal justice system, getting the data that we need to even be able to adequately support our LGBTQ plus community. And one other thing I'm looking forward to as you see what's going on around the world, not just backsliding in democracy, but horrible violence and repression of the LGBTQ plus community, is to once again have a president who understands that part of America's role in the world is to stand up for universal values, and yes, that means defending LGBTQ plus equality around the world. But we can only do that abroad for practicing what we preach at home. Same as it is with democracy or any other issue. Same as it is with climate. All these things where lives are at stake in the future. And this is our chance. So I really wish that we were gathering in person. I know this would have been one of the most exciting and vibrant in-person caucus meetings, but just the same in the virtual fashion. I know some of the most exciting and fun to be around and determined people in the party are represented in this caucus. So, accept some warm virtual hugs from us here in South Bend. We're so thrilled to be with you.
And from Buddy and Truman, they're both snoring off camera. I was hoping that you all couldn't hear them, but they're happy to have us home. I was sad that we aren't in person, but I mean, doing the Zooms in drawstring shorts, really. I mean, what a bonus, you know?
Yeah, we're definitely prioritizing comfort. It's good to kind of be able to be around the world at once, right? And that's how our community is.
It's good to have you home.
I see that Mayor Garcia is going to join us soon. Great to see fellow mayor, and I know you're going to have a lot of wisdom for us too. So I'll wrap up. I just want to mention one other thing. You know, sometimes the way politics works, folks forget that this is about personal life. This is about everyday life. They talk about it like it's about a scoreboard. I think the LGBTQ community is uniquely able to remind them because our lives, our very marriages, our households, the existence of our families depends on political decisions and political courage. We have a unique place in this party and in this country to remind everybody of what's at stake. I know that you take that to heart. It's one of the reasons I'm proud to stand with you. And let's give ourselves a lot to celebrate. Thanks for everything that you're doing.